Akshata is going to be talking about zero trust security for your APIs. And I'm going to get you all introduced to our speaker. Our speaker, Akshata Sawant, is a MuleSoft developer advocate at Salesforce. She has co-authored the book titled MuleSoft for Salesforce Developers. Her skill set includes MuleSoft developer and architect. She has a bachelor's degree in information technology. She's been an active member of the MuleSoft community, a former MuleSoft ambassadress, and a MuleSoft meetup leader in London, Mumbai, and Manchester. Yes, so I will now hand it over to Akshata. Please, Akshata, go
Hello,
ahead.
hi. Thank you. Let me get started. Oh yeah. Is my screen visible? Is it good?
Yes.
Cool. So thank you so much for joining, everyone. So today we are mainly going to discuss about zero trust security for your APIs. With that, I know she introduced me, but just a quick introduction. Currently, I'm working as a developer advocate at MuleSoft, and I've been in MuleSoft for like around 5+ years now. And yeah, I'm an author and a blogger, speaking at a few sessions as well. And yeah, I'm a big time foodie and I love traveling and photography. I would be happy to connect with you guys over LinkedIn and Twitter. So yeah, these are the credentials. With that, today we're mainly going to learn about the API security and what is zero trust security, how do we implement it. We'll also see some live examples, a demo. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. I mean, we'll have a Q&A session at the end, but if you have any questions, we can take them during the session as well. Rashmi will help you out, like she'll just narrate it out. And yeah, that's it. So with that forward-looking statement, which states that make your product purchasing decisions based on the products which are available today in the market. And yeah, let's get started. So we all know that API security has been a major concern. So over the past few years, we are aware that the use of APIs have increased significantly. APIs have been increasing. I mean, the use of APIs have been increasing, and APIs have been proliferating at an exponential rate. You can also say that APIs have been actually sprawling into different environment, different ecosystem, different groups and all, and they are quite in silos, which becomes difficult for them to manage. So nearly 41% of the organizations, they have been facing issues regarding to API security. So yeah, I mean, definitely, are there any GTA fans here? Anyone who have heard about the major GTA leak, which we experienced almost like 2-3 months back? So even if you're a GTA fan or if you're not a GTA fan, I mean, still you must have heard the news that there was some video leaks and the game leak right before the game launch. So this has actually impacted the organization a lot in terms of, I mean, the cost associated, I mean, the revenue, the company's name. I mean, that was a total disaster, you can say. And there were also news that this happened because someone someone insider, I mean, someone who was an employee kind of, that's still not like revealed who it was, but yeah, there was some news. So when someone inside a company can, I mean, they can do something such disastrous, I mean, at this level, which can actually create a havoc. So the question is like, whom should we be trusting? Who is actually, I mean, whom can we actually trust with our data or our systems and everything? So the answer is basically trust no one. And that's what zero trust security says as well. So with zero trust security, which is actually zero trust security, I mean, we have the whole webinar is about zero trust security. So before moving ahead, zero trust security is like an architectural concept. You can say it's a security concept or a framework which helps you to ensure that you're applying security to your architecture, to your network, to your systems. It's not just limited to APIs, but you can actually extend it to like your systems, your entire network, your architecture, everything. But in this session, mainly we are going to learn, we are going to discuss how do we apply zero trust security to our API? What are the core fundamentals of zero trust security? So the core principle is never trust anyone and always verify. So at each and every stage, we are going to verify that we are applying right security and we are not trusting anyone. At each and every stage, we are going to validate and verify the credentials of the entity who is basically with whom we are having a transaction. So yeah, that is the core principle. with that, like, yeah, the first one, never trust anyone and always verify. So at each and every stages, we are going to verify and validate our APIs or our data, whichever we are sending. So we'll come across this in the demo as well, how I'm going to implement it. The second one being give the least privileges and default deny. So the access should be, by default, it should be a deny. I mean, you're not giving privileges like the way we share a Google document, for an example. Like you normally give it, you normally give rights as a viewer or a commenter. You don't give the full access right as an editor to everyone, right? So similarly, you should be giving a role-based access, and by default, it should be deny for all. And then only when the person has authenticated itself, they should be getting an access. So that is the second one. The third one being the full inspection and visibility. So you should be having entire, I mean, the access of control. I mean, basically a full visibility of the data which is coming in, which is going out. You should be inspecting your data, your systems very well. What are the systems? They are interconnected. How is the flow of data? I mean, there shouldn't be any loopholes present. You should be having an entire control. Even if one system is going down, you should be like, you should be having a centralized control basically. And that's what brings us to the fourth point, that there should be a centralized place using which you can manage your entire architecture, your entire ecosystem. So these are the four main pillars you can say of zero trust security. And we'll be seeing in today's demo as well, like in the upcoming slides, like how do we implement this and how do we achieve our goal. So meanwhile, if you guys have any questions when doing the demo, just feel free to drop them in the chat Q&A. So moving ahead, like how do we apply zero trust security for your APIs? So in this diagram, you can see like it's a mesh-like architecture wherein you can see like there are different systems which are interconnected to each other kind of thing. Like, yeah, so you can see there is SAP, there's Workday. So similarly, imagine you are having a mesh-like architecture, a complex ecosystem. So how are you going to apply security? How are you going to implement zero trust security? So just keep in mind all the four fundamentals which we have seen in the previous slides, and then we'll see over here how we are going to apply them. So firstly, what the approach we are going to follow is a layered security approach, which means that at each and every stage, we are going to apply layered security. So if you see the red dotted line, it says that it's an edge perimeter, you can say like that. So at the external level, and this M thing, which you can see, you can consider them as APIs, Mule APIs or non-Mule APIs, basically any APIs which you're having. As we're currently in the session, we're mainly talking about the APIs. So just imagine this as an API infrastructure or a complex mesh-like architecture, which is interconnecting different end systems. So at each and every end system, we are going to apply API security. So now imagine here, my Workday application is connected to my API, Mule API. So at that stage as well, I'm going to apply an API, a security. So how are we going to apply security? We'll see that ahead. So yeah, let's get our tools in action. That's what I call it for demo. So imagine this is like an order management system here. Okay. And in this order management system, like I'm having different layers, you can say, and these different layers, they're interconnected. So if you see the first, the above layer, it's like the end systems which are exposed, and then there are different APIs. So at each API, if you can see, I've applied different, if you can see the rate limiting, SLA based, custom policy, JWT policy. So all these are like basically security policy. So we might not need similar kind of policy everywhere. Each system is different, right? And each system will be needing, will be having its own different need. But what, I mean, as per zero trust security, what you need to ensure is at each and every stage, you will be needing a security policy or an authentication. Only then you will be allowing access. So that is the core principle as well. And yeah, that is how it's going to be. No matter which security policy, you can have all, I mean, all these APIs, they can be having a same kind of policy, a same authentication, or you could be having different as per your needs. Some might also not require, I mean, there shouldn't be a system which is not having at all any policy, because you cannot trust any other, like the entity from where you're getting the data. Okay. So, okay. Sorry. Yeah. So from the previous one, we are saying that I mean, in this demo, we'll see how we apply JWT policy, which is like Java Web Token policy to your API. So this is like one of the entire, I mean, entire diagram. We're just picking one of them, and we are seeing how do we have an API and how do we apply a policy to that API. But same approach, you're going to extend it to your entire ecosystem. And that's what we call it as layered security. At each and every layer, from the periphery to the towards the inside, the innermost layer, you're going to apply your security policies. And that's how you're going to achieve zero trust security. So in this example, we'll mainly see like how do we achieve it for our APIs. So in this demo, we'll be mainly using MuleSoft's Anypoint platform. So before going ahead to the demo, just brief intro about what MuleSoft is, MuleSoft Anypoint platform is. So it's a number one integration tool, iPaaS tool, which gives you everything you need under integration ecosystem. You can actually design your APIs, you can publish, you can manage your entire API lifecycle under one roof, under one frame. Okay, and you have lots of connectors. It's a no code tool. You don't have to spend your hours on coding. You can actually reduce the time to delivery time to market. You can accelerate your delivery, and yeah, you can create a seamless digital experience with the Anypoint platform. So we'll just see in the demo as well, like what are the components, what are the capabilities, and how do we achieve it. So in this demo, we are mainly like the universal API management. That is the key offering which we have for API management solution, and when it comes to API security. But apart from that, we are going to see here with two developer personas. We have two developer personas with him, like Maxi and Dan, and we'll be taking their example in our case study to see like how do we actually secure our APIs, how do we achieve zero trust security. So the first one, Maxi, she's an API developer, and she wants to build API specification. Her organization has been using design first approach. So as a developer, we all are like, I think majority of us, we are developers here, and we all are having some experience with developing APIs. I mean, we may not be having experience developing API, but that's also fine. So for Maxi, her organization wants her to build an API. She wants to catalog some API. She wants to implement test logic and deploy her application monitor her application as well. So these are few of the basic tasks we have all been doing as a developer, and that are day-to-day life tasks. So we need to see like how do we, as a developer, what is our role in API security, and how do we achieve it? So let's head over to Anypoint platform, and then maybe we can see like how do we achieve it. So currently I'm an Anypoint platform, the one I told you, the MuleSoft's iPaaS tool. So these are the different capabilities we have for our API management solution. So firstly, I'll be going to Design Center, and I'll just show you like how do we create our API, how do we design our API. So even for designing our API, you can create actually a new API specification. You can give some name as WWCode demo, and then you can create a YAML from scratch. You can create YAML or OS. You can have a guided approach which will help you to create an API. Let me duplicate that. So while this is opening, let me also open a API specification. So yeah, I can create my new API from scratch. Like I can give a name as order management system, and then I can select some protocols which I need, application JSON. I can select URI. So if you see in the right-hand side, the code has been auto-generated for me. I do not have to write the entire code from scratch. So it is like saving lots of time. I can select the resources I want to. Okay, edit specs. I can give it a resource name. This branch is changed. Okay. I'm not sure. Let me just try again. These are the things which I pray for before we start a demo. So yeah, I'll just create a new project, WWCode demo 1. And we were using a guided approach to create an API. So yeah, guide me to this process as well. So guys, if you have any questions, do let me ask while I'm just typing a new API. Yeah, so I'll create an order management system API title. So I was just showing you guys that we are actually having a RAML creator. You can also have your OS, you can download this code. So you do not have to write entire code from the scratch. You're selecting your API, your media type. You can have your resources, data types, whatever you want, and then it will be generated. You do not have to write the entire code from scratch if you're not familiar to. So to save our time, I actually have uh, a API specification ready. Okay, maybe I can bring it up this one. Sorry. So I already have an API specification, which I can maybe show it to you guys. So as a developer, what is our role in API security? That is what we're mainly seeing here. And how does this implies to zero trust security? So this is actually the API, which is like a full-fledged API we have developed. So you can see here that is secured by parameter. So this is what I was actually trying to imply, that since the beginning, you have to make sure that your API, like right from the design stage, you're implementing API security in your design. So if you go into the dependencies, so I have some rule sets applied over here. And if you see, this is like the authentication best practices rule set. So which means that I'm applying few rule sets, certain amount of rule sets to my API. So in case if there is a new developer who's joining in, and if he misses one of the rule sets, maybe if he forgets some security rules or security operations in my while designing the API, so my API will be throwing some errors. So that is how I am like making sure that my API design is concrete right from the beginning. And then we are actually preventing some iterations towards the end. So this is like the first stage, which comes in the API, like while the API is in design stage. Secondly, moving ahead to the API governance. So have you guys like previously worked with SonarQube, or if you have used like SonarQube in maybe in your projects or something? So in that case, this is similar to SonarQube, not similar to SonarQube. I mean, in Sonar, while you're using a SonarQube, you must have seen like you used to get all those bugs or errors or the security warnings kind of thing. See, not security, the application. If your application is or code is violating some standards or not, it's not following the coding best practices, you used to get those warning bugs and error messages. So similarly, you're applying some security and governance rules set to your API. So you're making sure that your API is confining to all the security governance. So it's conforming basically. So in case if your API is not obeying any of the governance or security rules, you will be getting the error. So let me create a new profile and show you what security best practices you can apply to your API. Best practice demo. Okay. So I'm just creating a rule set, a profile, in which I can apply like any of the best practices. Currently, like we are mainly associated with security. So we'll go for security authentication best practices, OAuth security best practices. Okay. And I can select few APIs, whichever I want to. Okay, for which I want to apply some security standards and API. I've created some tags for that. And there is just one API which I'm getting. And I can, if there is any violation of rule, I'll be getting an error message or basically an email alert saying that the rule have been violated. And all this is happening right when we are in the design stage. We have not even implemented the API. So as a developer, we can ensure that we are applying API security right from the design stage. I mean, that will definitely not validate your API security, but it will simulate. You can actually mock your API while it's in design center, and you can see like if the API is obeying to the rules or not. Like suppose if you have something over here and you can try it out using the mocking services. Okay, so it will give you an error because I'm not providing the username authentication password. But if I'm giving something or username and a password, and if I send, I'll be definitely. So if you see, it's not actually validating the response, but I mean, even if you're passing this on to a non-technical person, he should be knowing like how an API is designed and how he should be taking care of the API security, basically. Okay. Moving ahead, back to our presentation. So we have seen at the design stage how we can help Maxi to achieve API security. So moving ahead, we have Dan, who's an API owner. So as an API owner, his main responsibility is to add proxy to add security, to manage all his APIs, to monitor services, create alerts and all this such. So he's an API owner, right? He's actually responsible for API management. And over all these years, we have been actually thinking that API security is not something a developer should be concerned about. It might be, it should be taking something care by an architect or someone who's of like higher authority. But no, API security actually applies to everyone, every person at every stage while you're developing an application. So let us see like how we can help Dan to achieve his goal. So let's head back to Anypoint platform again, and we can see about API security. So first I'm going ahead with the API manager. So API manager, like I mentioned, the last fourth point, right? Centralized management. So we need a centralized control where we're going to actually manage all our APIs. So API management is one place. Like you can actually manage all your APIs. Like you could be having hundreds of APIs and they could be all scattered. They could be MuleSoft APIs, non-Mule APIs. They could be deployed on different servers. You can say like some of the APIs are deployed on Google, some of them are, I mean, Microsoft Azure Cloud, or some on AWS, some of them are on MuleSoft. You never know where they are, but you want all of them to be managed in a single place. So you need to be having a centralized management place where you're actually going to manage and control all this API, where you're actually going to apply security to this API. And that's when you can proudly say you're having a centralized access. So with API manager, I can achieve all of that. And it's actually very super easy, you can say. So I already have few API instance which I've created. So API instance, I mean, if you're already familiar to the concepts of API gateway, MuleSoft, Mule, I mean, we have over here Mule gateway, Flex gateway, and all like that. But if you are familiar to the concepts of API gateway, which is like a gatekeeper, I can give an example. Like suppose if you're having, if there is a building, the office premises, and you want to access your office premises, you want to go to your floor. So only if you're having the identity card, the gatekeeper will be giving you an access. So the gatekeeper here would be like API gateway. It will validate if your API, if there is anything, it's basically like a gatekeeper who will be checking the credentials, the validations and stuff like that. So I've already created an API instance for my API, for the one API which I need to manage. Okay, so this is not the one for my demo, sorry. So API governance demo, yeah, I had created one for this. So using API manager, I can create alert contract. I can have some policies. Small policies are the main part we are actually going to look into today. So we had seen in the diagram, right? We had this mesh-like architecture. There were different policies. There were different dotted lines and different these things. So the components. So all these components, we have seen that we should be applying all the policies over here. So there are different kinds of policies which are provided by MuleSoft. These are the out-of-box policies. So going to security, I mean, they are just not security categories. They are from quality of service, compliance, transformation, troubleshooting, all these categories. So yeah, let's have a look at the rest as well. So there are a few for quality of service like caching, rate limiting. So it gives you a bit familiarity. There are two of them for compliance, transformation, header injection, header removal, and troubleshooting message logging policy. But today we're mainly going to see about the security policies which we can apply. So you have, I mean, if you have already heard about Okta, I mean, the OAuth, basic authentication, the simple using a username, password, or simple, I mean, LDAP. So the first reason, I mean, you can definitely have your basic authentication policies in some situation wherein you don't require a strict security policies, but where you need a two-factor authentication, where you're actually going to verify it all the time using a token, a third-party a tool which will give you a token. So in that case, you need to go with policies like JWT or OAuth, sorry, for validation. So in this, I have actually configured the JWT policy. We'll just run through the configuration and we'll see how do we uh, achieve it, like edit the configuration. So you can select your algorithm, the signing method. It could be RSA or I mean HMAC algorithm, and you can select your signing key length, the JWT text key origin, if you want to validate your claim or not. So for those of you who are not, and then we'll just apply save. So currently I have not applied the security policy, and this is my API, which I'm just setting via REST client Postman. So it will be definitely giving me a proper response, which is because the policy has not been applied. It is like open for everyone, come here and attack me kind of thing. But at every stage, at every endpoint, so you have to apply policy if you need to like have a minor details or maybe granular control, you can say. So you can actually go to advanced control, and you can select which method or which particular method you want the policy to be applied, or maybe a security, or if you want different policies for different security level based on the role, or based on the, like, suppose if there is a get orders kind of thing, so I don't need major security for getting, but if I'm posting an order uh, via an API, I definitely need some security, because there shouldn't be any uh, misuse of that API kind of thing. I mean, just for an example, I'm saying. So yeah, this is the policy which I'm like, okay, I'm applying the policy currently to all the methods in API, and I'm just saving it. And yeah, let me enable the policy as well. Yeah, it's enabled. So meanwhile, I mean, applying the policy, it will take some time and it will be applied. I have an application which is like deployed on Cloud App. It's like Mule's Arif Cloud. So meanwhile, let's have a look at the JWT token, and we can understand the other principles as well. Of so this is the JWT token. So why I am like insisting more on JWT token, or maybe OAuth, they are the best, because with this token you can actually send your payload, you can send your signature, your key. You can select whichever algorithm you want to, and if you can see over your role, so that's what is more important. Like I can have a role as developer, I can have a role as admin, or whatever my role is. So all this data will be actually encoded, and it will be sent in the form of token. Okay, as a bearer token, that's what we call it when it comes to JWT. You can just read more about JWT or any other authentication policy which you're going to apply maybe over Google. So which policy you're going to apply and how you're going to apply, that will be quite easier for you. But why you need to apply, that's quite important. So here my role is admin. So while decrypting at my end, at my application's end, my API gateway will check like what are the policy, what are the roles which I have. And suppose if I have a developer role, I won't be allowed to have a admin right. I won't be allowed to handle the methods or access the method which the developer is not having the rights. So this also covered the second point, which is like privileges, right? The deny, by default it should be deny, and we should be giving the least privileges as possible, only to have security. So with that, I guess our policy should have been applied to the, yeah, let me just check for the application. Yeah, in the logs. So this is a runtime manager, which will actually help me to say, yeah, my policy has applied JWT policy. So let me just now go and check ahead. So I'm getting an error as JWT token is required, and currently I haven't given any authentication. So I will make sure I'm giving the authentication, WWCode. So yeah, and now it's validating me. So this is how I've actually applied API security. This is a very simple example, but you can definitely scale it up to your organization level. And it was quite easy to apply as well. So if you're someone who's actually like me, who's interested in API security, so definitely do go out and like check about API security. How do you apply security to your APIs? Because that's quite interesting. It would be fun for you guys as well. So now let's head back to our slides. And yeah, we have seen like how we have helped Dan to achieve API security. I mean, a centralized place as well. As an API owner, he can definitely have a control at one place. He can manage all his APIs. With that, moving ahead, like what are the, I mean, this is actually summarizing our entire session, like how are you going to achieve, what are the main fundamentals you need to keep in mind. So firstly, start with a secure foundation. Make sure your platform where you're deploying your APIs, you're applying security policies, or whatever you're trying to achieve, that APIs you're trying to manage your APIs, that is a secure platform. It is following all the compliance to your client, to your organization. If there is any government organization, you make sure you're applying all those standards, the regulations and stuff. Deploy your application on a secure environment. Make sure your environment is secure as well, and not just applying. I mean, that is something external to API security, but make sure your environment is protected as well. You can definitely make use of endpoint security. So that is one of the other feature, I mean, I could say, which helps you more with API security. And yeah, you make sure all the services, not just API, your microservices, your containers, everything is secured along with APIs as well. So this was actually more like a summarization, I could say. Moving ahead, Yeah, so the key takeaways for our session, like what is the need for API security, we have seen previously, and then what is zero trust security. We have also seen like the four core fundamentals, you can say, like never trust anyone, always verify. At each and every stage we are going to verify. We're going to make sure that we are giving the least privileges, and by default it should be denial. And then we are also going to make sure that there will be centralized access, and we are having a full control and visibility across all the APIs and entire API ecosystem that we have for our organization. Okay, we have seen MuleSoft's Anypoint platform. What is it? It's an iPaaS tool. What are the capabilities? How do we apply policies, and how do we achieve layered security? And yeah, that's it. So the next steps would be like you can join our MuleSoft community and do let us know, and the products as well. You can try Anypoint platform for free, and it's a 30 days free trial account. You can try all of these features. You can deploy your APIs. You can create your APIs. You can do everything with APIs, and that will be like no code tool and helping you out. So learn more about it on. You can also watch us live on Twitch. We are usually live on Twitch with on Thursdays and Tuesdays. So you can just scan the code and you will be like taken to the Twitch page where you can just click the bell button and you can subscribe. Apart from that, yeah, I've recently like mentioned, like I recently co-authored a book, and I'm happy to say that my co-author is also present in the session, Alexandra Martinez. So yeah, it's available on Amazon, and there is currently a Black Friday sale going on. So if you're interested, maybe you can just grab your copy. If you want to learn more about MuleSoft, it's basically for the one who wants to learn about MuleSoft. Um, yeah, and let's get back to our questions. If you guys are having any questions, we can take them up now. So with that, also you can reach out to me on like Twitter and LinkedIn. And also, if you have any further queries, not in the session, you can just reach out to me later as well, or you can just scan the QR code, or you can connect with us on mulesoft.com.
Thank you.
With
Thank you
that, I will
so much.
stop sharing. Yeah. So let's get back to a Q&A tab.
Yes. Thank you so much, Akshata. I think that was a lot of information and you were amazing. Thank you so much. So
Thank
yes,
you.
so we have good number of questions in the Q&A and I'm going to get started with them. So first question, what is RAM LN 1.0?
Yeah, so RAML, it's a RESTful API modeling language. That is the full form. And you can design your API using RAML or using OS, Open API specification. So these are the different languages which are present using which you can actually design your API. So
Mhm.
if you go to RAML, I mean, you can definitely Google it out, like what is basically RAML, what are the components. And there is a site as well, RAML 100, 200, which is like the best for the beginners to get started if you want to learn how to design your APIs. And
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. Another question, SonarQube also detects Terraform based fallacies. Does MuleSoft also handle Kubernetes and Terraform?
yeah, I mean, not handle basically, but using MuleSoft, you can actually, you can have your own Kubernetes, basically the MuleSoft's Anypoint Flex Gateway, right? That is the one using which you can deploy your, which the underlying architecture it runs on Kubernetes.
Mhm.
So don't compare, I mean, MuleSoft to SonarQube, that's a totally, I mean, I just gave an example. SonarQube is something which we use for if there is any issues with the code, or basically a code standardizing tool, you can say. So MuleSoft is like much more than that. It's an entire like it's more of an API thing. And when it comes about Kubernetes, it doesn't deploy anything, but it definitely helps you to manage Kubernetes services using which you can, I mean, you can deploy a API, the Flex Gateway. Basically, that's what the API gateway, what you call it as.
Great.
I'm
Thank
not.
you.
Yeah.
Sorry, did you want to add something?
No, no, that's it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. So our next question, Carol wants to know if there is a documentation to understand a little more about what the security governance rules are checking for.
Okay, so documentation, there should be some, I can definitely send you out. So security, what the security governance rules are checking for. So when it comes, I mean, I'm sorry, I didn't get her question actually.
Okay,
So
so we'll probably request Carol to rephrase her question if that's okay. So meanwhile, I think I can move to the next question.
yeah, so
Um,
meanwhile, Carol, maybe I can just send her the documents for API governance if that's what she's, the governance rules are checking for. Maybe that's what if she's looking out for,
mhm.
or API governance, MuleSoft. that is more like, I mean, if you're speaking about API governance, like at the design phase, it will be basically there are different rules and stuff which you're going to implement. So that is
Mhm.
a different thing. And if you're talking about the API security policies, those are different. But I think I'll send you documents link for both of them, which you can just refer it out. Or if you still have any question, we can connect later on LinkedIn or something like that.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I hope Carol is satisfied now. So I'm going to move on to the next question. Is MuleSoft open source or is it open core?
It's not an open source, it's neither an open core as well, but you do get a 30 days free trial account using which you can try it for developers.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's not an open source tool. It's
Awesome.
yeah, it comes on the Salesforce ecosystem now, you can say. So
Okay.
it's one
Thank
of the
you.
Salesforce related product. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah. So can you scan for security policy compliance for APIs that are already released post design?
Yes, definitely. I mean, even if your APIs have been already released and they are currently implemented as well, you can still
Mm-hmm.
uh, apply API securities on them. I mean, there is no right time as well. You should be applying API security as early as you can, whenever they are out, whenever they are in like live. Whenever, I mean, it's possible, you should go ahead and just apply your API securities. You should, I mean, before you release them out, before you make them public for the users, make sure you're applying API securities. And even if they are public and you haven't applied, there is still a chance that you can apply API securities. So yeah.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. And our next question is about, is there a way to automate scanning for security policies as part of CI/CD?
Yeah, I mean, you can automate your deployments, that's for sure. But when it, I mean, you don't have to apply security policies every time. It's just a one-time job. So the one which we applied, right, JWT policy, that was one time. So no matter how many times I'm deploying my application, and deploying my application would be via CI/CD, but still my policy will be the same. I mean, there won't be any change until and unless I'm not making any change to my policy. So managing policy is altogether a different thing, and that's managed on a different platform.
Mhm.
And CI/CD is different. They are not. But if you want to pass any credentials, or if you want to manage any, like we have seen JWT token, like, all right, I mean, you are getting the token information. So if there is an information, you can definitely pass on some information to your CI/CD pipeline. You can give the instructions, whatever, whichever are like convenient for you. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. And our
Yeah.
next question, I'm really not sure if this is a question for you, but just curious
Yeah.
about if MuleSoft is hiring Node.js developers.
I mean, definitely there must be some openings. Currently, I'm not sure which is in the current situation. But if you want to learn MuleSoft, there are some free trainings available as well. There are 7 days free trial. I mean, you can just go to training.mulesoft.com and you can get yourself trained for the basic developer course. You can complete the first certification for free, and then you'll be a MuleSoft developer. And then I'm pretty sure that MuleSoft will hire you.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. I think that was a great answer, Akshita. And I see that we're almost done with all questions
Yeah.
in the Q&A. And I'm just quickly going through the chat to see if
If
we
there's
have
anything,
any
yeah.
more questions. Yeah.
Sure. I
So
mean, it was
I
amazing.
really
I
don't see
loved.
anything. Yes, but I see. What was the level two certification? We have a question around the level two
Okay.
certification.
So the level one is like basically for the big developers, you can say, and the level two is like a bit more extended. You can say it's more on the application network side of it. It's something before you should be doing before, like you get an integration architect. So it is a bit more complex than level one, obviously, for the level two reason. So
Okay.
yeah, that's more on the application network side and all, like platform side, application network side. So if you have already done the training for the application networks and uh, or yeah, all those things, you should be able to clear it. That's all I could say.
Great, great, great. Thank you so much, Akshata. I think you were really
Okay.
amazing. And
Yeah.
uh, I think we have all questions answered for today. And yeah, most of them are really happy. And I think it was a lot of good information for me as
Yeah.
well.
There's just one thing. I think in the chat section, Neha is saying that this is not the link maybe we are looking out for. Can you just tell me, Neha, like what are you actually, or Carol is looking out for? So
No, no, I think
because we have some.
I think she's also sharing another link. I'm really not sure. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm not
So
sure if
yeah, we
this
do
was the
have.
link you shared.
We do have like MuleSoft developer tutorials and documentation, and that's like pretty much covering everything. So about the APIs, API policies and everything. So you can check out that if you want to learn more about API security as well. Yeah,
Great. Awesome.
that's it,
Awesome.
Rashmi.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Akshata. I see one more question from Gangula. Can you I'm sorry, I don't get the question. Security policy documents. I think again probably they're curious
Yeah,
about the security policy.
let me just send it out.
Sure, I think we can also okay, great. Looks like a lot of them are just sharing their LinkedIn connections, but
Yeah,
yeah,
it's always
great.
good to network.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So Akshata has already shared the link. I think Akshata, you've just been super fast during the entire session with responding, sharing links. This is amazing.
Yeah,
Thank you so much. This is such an amazing presentation. And yeah, thank you.
I
Thank
I
you so much for
loved
your time.
I loved being here as well. I mean, it was really amazing to see like the audience is actually interested in security policies. So yeah,
Mhm.
I'm just sharing the docs.mulesoft.com, which is having like everything about security policies and like yeah, you can
Great.
just scroll out to like security.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye bye.